Yeah, I mean, I think that Southern California has been the birthplace of skating for a reason. One is that kind of like the first step in that would be that the fact that the surfers are all here. Like at that time, there's a bunch of surf breaks, and we're going back to the '60s here. But at that same time that the '60s was happening, I mean, the '50s were just before that. My grandfather had explained to me that, he explained white flight to me. There was, he lived in the area that is now black, in Los Angeles. I think it's like Baldwin Hills. I think, so he lived in Baldwin Hills, and he was explaining to me how, like, at that time period when he was living there, that, like, the African American community was like that was upwardly mobile were kind of like flocking to Baldwin Hills, and he personally watched everyone fly out.
Hmm.
He himself, I don't know if he claimed because of white flight, but he also moved to Huntington Beach, which brings me here. Uh, but he was explaining how that was happening. Like, basically, a lot of people were kind of like, "Screw this, we're out of here." Like, the
Hmm.
the city's changing, so these suburbs that got formed were kind of, in a way, the nugget of why they're here was this like fear and this want for a, you know, idyllic sort of '50s white picket fence sort of life. I think that this expansion from, especially here in Southern California, from LA out to Orange County, I mean, if you look at it from above on a map, it's an insane scab of concrete that covers the entire, it's like a wound, a petri dish of, you know, mold growing in this one spot, and it's all connected by cement. Like, there's really no nature between LA and here, or even another hour south, San Clemente, a couple hours north of LA. So you have this huge mass of just cement, which then for skateboarding creates this perfect place. And I was born into that. I was born into this area, and like in HB, you were kind of either a surfer or a skater. And I was too poor to have a surfboard and a wetsuit, so we just cobbled together skateboards and started skating. And with that, for me at least, came sort of punk music. I feel like I was in middle school and just drifting around, not knowing what I wanted to do or anything. I was just like a dork and liked skateboarding. I saw some skaters and wanted to skateboard, and then through that tool, that thing, I was accepted, suddenly by this like group of punk kids that, this kid had a mohawk, Ron, and they were scary as hell to me. But they were like, hey, like, I mean, it was almost that weird, that simple. They're just like, hey, kid with a skateboard, come hang with us. Like, oh, okay. Like, suddenly I'm getting all this music that I've never heard, and like being included into a world that, yeah, just kind of opened my horizon. Skateboarding itself, but then through that, all the creative people that are drawn to skateboarding and that. So,
Hmm.
the suburbs in a way is just like a hotbed for that kind of stuff. It always has been. The kind of kids that I first started hanging out with were those punk kids, and they had, I'd go to their room and they had flyers on their wall, and there was something cool about it in a way that, I didn't want to smoke weed, and they were smoking weed, but they never peer pressured me into doing it. I never felt like I have to do this to be hanging out with these guys, and so I just chose not to do that. And it wasn't a straight edge thing or anything. I just didn't want to do. I think I saw my own dad and my family like being drunk all the time and stuff, and it was just like had no interest in doing that. So, but there, this one kid's wall had all these punk flyers on his wall, and all the art on the punk flyers, and I think it's just like that. And this is the same time that, independent of me, a punk explosion was happening in Southern California. There's like SoCal punk scene that I was just like starting to get sort of clued into, and having tapes of some of these bands and stuff, but not, I was still kind of a nerdy kid. I wasn't going out to all these there was things happening that I was definitely missing that was like right next to me. There was probably, amazing shows happening right here in warehouses and things that I'm just in a parking lot skating and not doing that stuff. My friends might have been some of these punk kids I knew, but um, I guess I was aware of it, and that's in that culture, both skating and punk has always been sort of adopted the attitude of no one is gonna do anything for us. No one is, we're not the kind of people that Rolling Stone is gonna profile. If you're a band, in that situation. And even the skater kids, I mean, the idea of being in a Thrasher or something was completely alien. So, it was just like a high school thing. And to make a zine, for instance, we'd make your own zine to like promote your friends and have fun. Kids were in photo class, so it was like, what are you going to do for your assignment? Just go shoot your friends skating, and then you have all these photos that you printed out in your high school art photo class, so you take it to Kinko's and make a zine. I don't think we were sitting there with this like grand idea like Thrasher's not hooking us up, so we're just going to make our own, but that's kind of like naturally what happened. We just the zine culture came from just doing it,
All right.
It's it's a really strange sort of place. It's a place that I probably my entire life up until starting Toy Machine, I had planned on leaving. I grew up here, so I kind of didn't necessarily like this place. I, skated downtown as a kid and saw this sort of like weird surf bro culture of like fighting, and there was skinheads down there all the time, and I was just like, this is a weird place. And I had traveled a little bit, so I was kind of like, in my head I was like, I'm just gonna go up to Portland or up to San Francisco or even up to LA or something and not stay here. I think a lot of kids grow up in a place and feel oppressed by it and want to get out and leave. But then starting a skate company sort of tied me here. I didn't want to move to San Diego. I couldn't go up to SF and have, a company down here that I was supposed to be hands-on with. So I kind of got tied here, and it just kind of like became a suburbanite, essentially. Made money through skateboarding, bought a house, like lived in this crazy place that half these people are probably voting for Trump or something. I don't know. But I think I started realizing that you're just like, you have to participate in the places that you want to change in a way, and just so I'm 1% of this place, and hopefully I'm maybe a cooler 1% and doing something a little different here. But and then even more recently, I think that this place has become the ultimate source for everything I do. I mean, I had traveled as a skateboarder for my whole life, shooting sort of skate culture, as photographically speaking, shooting skate culture and shooting street photos around the world, and kind of thinking that that's what street photography is. Like, you have to go to San Francisco or go to Paris or go to one of these places to shoot cool street photos. And then somehow it just flipped, and I realized, like, right here in my backyard is a place that has a lot of character and a lot of people and a lot of weirdness, and so that started becoming a focus for shooting. And it was easy. It was like, obviously, it was just like the path of least resistance in a way. I live here. I just take a walk on the pier every day, get a drink down there, and take a quick walk. And just the act of doing that every single day, you start building this insane archive of images of what you have. And then, in turn, that archive of images has started completely influencing what I'm doing as a painter. I'm painting stuff that I miss, stuff that I see driving around that I don't even get a photo of, or I shoot just an iPhone photo of, and those little things that I see. And then also using photos, like I did a couple paintings at the pier, like a pier scene kind of thing, and I was just like looking through my photos, referencing, oh yeah, this guy who's there every day, I have 10 photos of him I can make a composite sort of drawing from these photos of this guy that I see all the time that is always there, and add these characters that are kind of actual real life characters into the paintings that are essentially not realistic. They're not photorealistic or that in that way, but I'm sort of using the people I see. So yeah, I mean, this whole place has been a source. We go to Europe for periods of time, like a month or 2 months at a time sometimes, and coming back there's always a weird culture shock. You forget you like spend a month in Europe, and you get used to that lifestyle there and the architecture there, and then you get off the plane and get on the freeway from LAX back home, and the freeway is 8 lanes wide, and there's nothing like that in Europe. There's nothing that huge. The word rebellion isn't really like, I don't feel like a rebel, or in a lot of ways I'm just living the exact, I'm just a human living in the United States. I mean, I pay taxes, I vote, it's like I'm a citizen. I just, I'm a homeowner. I mean, I'm not doing anything rebellious really. And like, what's rebellious about it? I'm making art and making photos and talking about it and writing about it, and that's just like a creative outlet. And I'm, maybe there's like a little bit of a critical eye on where I live, but there's like a love too. It's a love-hate relationship. That's kind of what it's always been here. A love-hate. It's like you're skating downtown and there's a bunch of assholes, but then again, like traveling, you realize there's assholes everywhere. The suburbs are kind of a funny place because it's like supposed to be this idyllic place, but there's wife beaters in here, there's drug addicts in here, there's, even though it looks like everyone's fine, it has like a perfect family, just by the look of it, it's kind of not that. Humans are the same everywhere, the same percentage of people in LA that are fucked here. So compared to the people in here, my lifestyle would be considered way alternative to their standard, and but at the same time, it's like not alternative at all. It's just like.
Do you feel like it's some sort of like a public service anyway, the photography you do, like teen smokers, I'm sure made some kids not want to smoke, or something like that?
Oh, that'd be cool. I just I kind of like this almost approaching stuff like a journalist in a way, but at the same time, my point of view isn't very hidden. It's so when I did teenage smokers, and it was kind of like an organic thing that happened, as far as I just was around a bunch of kids who were smoking. It started at the skate park in Huntington Beach, and the school would get out and all the riffraff would kind of come to gravitate to the skate park and start smoking. And it started with that. I just was like, this is a funny thing, like look at all these kids thinking they're cool. I was already older, so I'm like looking at the high school kids, thinking like, remembering like that time period, and then the peer pressure, and you could see that like half of them were smoking just because it's like, we're the cool kids, we gotta smoke, like they didn't wear it very comfortably. It was like a forced affectation, and that's what I was interested in, like that kind of forced like acting out of like, I'm a smoker, I'm a rebel or whatever within the high school world. So that's what it started from. And then again, it's like everything's organic. It's just like I shot a couple Polaroids of kids smoking at the park, and then I realized like, whoa, I'm a pro skater, and I go do demos all over the world, essentially for 15-year-old kids who come to see us skate, and they're all smoking too. So it just turned into this thing where I was like shooting that. But then when I put it out, I didn't say smoking is good or smoking is bad. I just kind of showed it. Teenage smokers, like it's a typology. It's just a collection of one type of image and just thrown out there and presented as like here it is, like here it is, Mm-hmm. I think that when you see it, you get sad, like, oh, this is kind of weird, and hopefully, yeah, kids see that. Clearly, I'm a non-smoker and hate it, and but I didn't want to come out and say that. I think art that is like some kind of screed in one direction or the other is kind of like off-putting to a lot of people. Even though, I mean, like I said, it's like my kind of politics are not very cloaked in most of the stuff I do. So, but yeah, you don't want to scream it at the same time. You just want to kind of leave it out there.
Yeah.